Hi everyone, tonight we're going to study Psalm 90. I'm going to read it first all in English. This is from Robert Alter's fabulous translation and commentary of the entire Hebrew Bible that just came out in 2020. So this is Psalm 90. A prayer of Moses, man of God. O Master, you have been our abode in every generation. Before mountains were born, before you spawned earth and world, from forever to forever, you are God. You bring man back to the dust and say, "Turn back, humankind." For 1,000 years are in your eyes, are like yesterday gone, like a watch in the night. You engulf them with sleep. In the morning, they are like grass that passes. In the morning it sprouts and passes. By evening it withers and dies. For we are consumed in your wrath, and in your fury we are dismayed. You have set our transgressions before you, our hidden faults, in the light of your face. For all our days slip away in your anger. We consume our years like a sigh. The days of our years are but 70 years, and if in great strength, 80 years. And their pride is trouble and grief, for swiftly cut down we fly off. Who can know the strength of your wrath, as the fear of you is your anger? To count our days rightly, instruct, that we may get a heart of wisdom. Come back, O Lord, how long? And have pity on your servants. Sate us in the morning with your kindness. Let us sing and rejoice all of our days. Give us joy as the days you afflicted us, the years we saw evil. Let your acts be seen by your servants, and your glory by their children. And may the sweetness of the Master our God be upon us, and the work of our hands firmly found for us, and the work of our hands firmly found. Now let's go back and take a closer look at Psalm 90. There's a tradition that the book of Psalms, there's a tradition that the book of Psalms is actually a compilation of 5 different volumes put in one, sort of like the 5 books of the Torah. Psalm 90, according to this tradition, is the first psalm of the 4th book. This is the only psalm that is attributed to Moses, who is called man of God. What's interesting is that in the 4th book of Psalms, Moses is mentioned 7 times. He is only mentioned one other time in all of the other books, all 150 chapters. So it's possible, according to Robert Alter, that the editor of this 4th book of Psalms used Moses' name as part of, his unique signature, again, editing the 4th book. So it's clear in the first few verses that Moses is reflecting on the fragility of human life, that our days come and pass so quickly, and with difficulty at that. In the 3rd verse, Moses says, and I'll read it in the Hebrew, Teshev enosh ad daka, vatomer shuvu b'nei adam. So it's possible that Moses here was referring to teshuvah, the idea of returning to God. Perhaps he was speaking to the people of the desert generation, the people he led out of Egypt, who the Torah records many instances of backsliding and complaining and kvetching. And maybe Moses is telling them, mend your ways, do tshuva, and return to God. And then the 4th verse is just so beautiful, so poetic. In Hebrew, it says, Ki elef shanim be'einecha, kayom etmol, ki ya'avor. 1,000 years in your sight, God, are as but a single day. And he goes on to say, va'ashmura balayla. He shortens it even further. God, 1,000 years in your sight are like a single day, or even shorter. They're like a single watch during the night. In ancient times, our ancestors would watch the temple, and the evening watch was split up into 3 parts. So Moses here is saying our life in God's eyes isn't even a day. It's like one of the nighttime watches. That's roughly 4 hours. Robert Alter describes it this way. The poet concretizes a vision of time seen from God's end of the telescope. Oh, it's just so beautiful. And Moses, the text here for the next few verses is a little bit dark. You know, he describes our existence like grass that grows and flourishes in the morning, but by the end of the day, it just passes, it withers and dies. And then he goes on to compare our existence, that it just can't stand up in front of God's wrath. And Moses describes that all of our deeds are in front of God, and who could possibly survive that? So not only is our life short, but when we're faced with God's wrath over our misdeeds, because remember, Moses told us, Shuvu b'nei Adam, return to the way of God. So not only is our life short, but when we have to stand before God's anger, our life is short and difficult, challenging, and bitter. So this is a dark picture that Moses pictures of human existence. But the nature, the flavor of the whole psalm changes with verse 12. Well, I should read also that Moses says a verse that's fairly well known. The days and years of our life are 70, and if we're lucky, we reach 80. Yemei shenotenu vahem shivim shana, ve'im bigvurot shmonim shana. That we live longer now, but it doesn't matter. Our life still goes by in a snap, and we struggle, especially again in the face of God's wrath. Now, the whole tenor of the psalm, as I said, it changes on verse 12. And verse 12 is a very well-known verse. God, teach us to number our days, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. In Hebrew, Limnot Yamenu Kain Hoda, V'navi Levav Chochma. Just beautiful. And then everything is much more hopeful and rosier. Moses asks for God to return to us, and Moses says, make us glad according to the days that we suffered, give us that in gladness. It's really just beautiful. He says, give us joy to offset the suffering that we faced in our short life. Life might seem short and fraught, but Moses says that God's kindness can turn human joy from a few fleeting hours that we will become happy all of our days. And so it's faith in God and in the kindness of God that can turn everything around, can take all of this darkness and pessimism that life is so short, and we can embrace faith in God and have joy and happiness all of our days, no matter how brief they may be. They will all be filled with joy. And the last verse is also a very well-known verse. In Hebrew it says, Vihi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, umaaseh yadenu konena aleinu, umaaseh yadenu konenehu. And it basically says, God, may you firmly establish the works of our hands. The Hebrew verb konen is used for the idea of that buildings will remain unshaken. So it's a great contrast by Moses here, by the psalmist if he's writing in Moses' voice, that in the first few verses, Moses was comparing us to grass that grows during the day, but then it withers at night. Now we have the chance to be konen, to be firmly established, and that the work that we do in this world with our hands will live on after us, will be firmly established forever. I like to use that verse of work being firmly established by our hands during funerals for people who were handy, who were good at fixing things, who were good working with their hands, because it fits very nicely. So, again, this is Psalm 90, such a beautiful psalm. I hope you enjoyed it.